as we're probably all seeing, sustainability is becoming a hot topic, and I think only growing, and will only continue to grow. I don't think it's a trend or a fad that will go away, especially when we have, severe weather events that show people that it really is happening, climate change. And as a result, we've got huge amounts of money being poured into these materials like never before. And so we see that the development of them is speeding up, and iterations of, I've worked with many of these companies, either on like a sort of temporary advisor, or actually as a paid consultant, helping them develop. And the speed of change and how well the materials are advancing is very fast. And I remember speaking to one company, it's sort of a legacy company. They worked with polymers in Italy. They were sort of one of the first polyurethane, so faux leather as we tended to know it. And they said they were working on this rice, I think it was a rice-based leather, for like probably a decade, and like it never got off the ground because there wasn't the will and the money. Right. But now people are putting money in, and things are changing like this. So it's really exciting, and I can only see the materials getting better and better, so that consumers might never know the difference.
Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of ingenuity. My name is Ken Tenser, CEO of SpyderWorks, a leading business consultancy for mid-market organizations and entrepreneurs globally. With me today is Jessica Kruger, founder of LUXTRA, a fashion company creating accessories crafted from the most innovative, vegan, and sustainable materials available. Like this video if you enjoy our show, and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment with who we should interview next. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Jessica Kruger, welcome to Say Hi to the Future.
Hi, thank you very much.
So Jessica, I was listening to some interviews or some tape you did a few years ago. It was about the female lead in 20 in their 20s. This was leading up to you founding the restaurant called Ethos, and you talked about wanting to do something meaningful with your life. So tell us a little bit about what meaningful means to you and how Ethos played into that.
Meaningful is something that I really care passionately about, and I found that my big passion back in sort of 2012, and that's animal welfare. I watched a documentary around that time, and I saw sort of what you see behind the scenes of what happens, and I thought I don't want anything to do with that for my life, have any part of that going forward. So yeah, I changed a lot of things in my own lifestyle, but then I wanted to do something bigger and have more impact on the world. So that's sort of where my business journey began.
And so I think some of that came from your mom, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. She went from Australia to the West Coast of America. Tell us about that farm and farming. Yeah. I think it was animals saved from factory farming.
Exactly. The name of the farm specifically is Animal Sanctuary, and I've been living in Europe for the past decade or more, and I was back at home in Australia for Christmas one year, I think 2011 or 12, and Mum was getting ready to getting prepared of what she's going to wear on this farm and like what she has to do differently, and she had to become a vegan to go and work on there. And this is sort of a time when the V word was still quite taboo, or not very appealing for many people. Big debate about that, whether it's still appealing now. But so she was going to work on this farm, on Animal Farm Sanctuary in the States, leaving my dad and the dog at home for 6 months, and she was doing it for quite a long-winded story, but it's something she became very passionate about. And then once I understood what she was doing, it definitely changed my life and set me off on the path I'm on now.
Now, from this, you founded a restaurant called Ethos. So yes. Tell us about Ethos, and tell us about the leap to becoming an entrepreneur, because this was not something that you had done before.
No, exactly. Sort of going back to your point a moment ago about doing something you care about. It's one thing that I found that I really did care about is living a cruelty-free lifestyle, and you can become quite upset when you realize the extent to which the world doesn't operate on the same basis. So I felt like I really had to do something. I couldn't just like do my own little thing in my own little kitchen. I really wanted to show people without ever preaching, because that's when you start turning people off. You know, let me show people, let me show how wonderful it can be. And the restaurant that I created, I moved from Switzerland to London to create it. It was about like a beautiful setting and something that would be really attractive to a lot of people, and the food would be on display but really beautiful, and colorful and enticing. So that was the concept behind ethos. And to your point about jumping into it cold and not having any experience, that's exactly what I did. I had a job, I was working in an advertising agency, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna move countries and start a restaurant. And I did.
So that's pretty cool. Also, it's pretty adventurous. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for a while, and I know that, you know, the gut check that we all go through is incredible, especially at the beginning. I'm sure you had a few nights where you're walking around and it was 2 a.m. going, and why am I doing this?
Still have those, yep.
So it's funny, after I think it was my second business and I was in New York and I was speaking to a longtime entrepreneur, and I said, when does it go away? And he said, I don't know yet. He was in his 70s. He said, I think when you sell and retire. So I think we have a ways to go, the both of us. But
sounds like
you talked about the culture of entrepreneurs, I think in one of the interviews. And what was it about the culture of entrepreneurs, or how you see the culture of entrepreneurs, that said, yeah, I can do this?
I sort of felt like I had no choice in a way. It's the only thing I really cared about enough to, you know, when you're a young person in your 20s, you're like, what do I do for my career? And like, you know, you think, oh, I mean, I studied architecture at university, and that wasn't for me. I only did 1 year of it, then I changed. And then I did this thing in Paris, and I did that thing in Geneva, and, you know, and then finally it lit up and I realized, oh, wow, this is what I really care about. This is what I'm going to do. And then to your point about the culture of entrepreneurs, I think the phrase that I used in that video was like people, you know, failing and getting back up and starting again and trying. I mean, not necessarily you have to have your whole business fail to be able to, you know, do better. I have daily failings, and it's like, right, okay, let's not do that again. Or, you know, where I'm at with my current business is like, okay, something's maybe still not quite working. Let's reel it back. Let's start again. Or, you know, not start again from scratch, but, you know, you've got to always be constantly evaluating and trying to optimize.
So it's interesting timing, because as this video or this podcast is going to air, we're having our first, well, we've had a number of event activations for Say Hi to the Future. The next one is on resilience.
There you go.
Sounds like resilience is a very big part of your journey.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of things in my life, personally included, that you just think, okay, well, I've got to get through this. Yeah, maybe I go home and cry at times, or, you know, I need to lean on people, but it's when I come back and think, why am I doing this? What's the bigger picture, that I really keep pushing through. And sometimes it's my ego as well. I don't want to be a quitter, which, you know, sometimes you can be a bit hard-headed, and maybe you should quit, because maybe I think there's even a book about this, The Dip or something, by Seth Godin. Maybe got the author wrong, but I know it's called Dip. It's like there are times when quitting is actually a good thing, because you can take those learnings and apply them in something that's much more productive. But it's that fine balance of knowing, okay, do I just keep pushing through, or like, should I pivot or should I stop? I
wish there was this magic formula too, because I mean, as an entrepreneur, you have to have the audacity to say, I can do this. And I think one of the things that all entrepreneurs share are people telling them, no, you can't, no, you shouldn't, no, it won't work. And you have to shut off to that. And you're right. On the other side of it is, hey, I wonder if they're right. What is that point? So, but it doesn't seem like you've hit that point, because as you just said, you sold out of ethos and now you've moved on.
Yeah, I mean, with my current business now, LUXTRA, which is, some people, when I first started, they're like, you were in restaurants and now you're in fashion. How is that? How do you even do that? For me, it's very simple because it's the same underlying reason I'm doing it is the animal welfare, trying to make the world a kinder place. It's in one industry, but yeah, sure. Now I'm just applying it to a different industry, and it's still consumer goods, consumer services. So it's not like I'm all of a sudden in a tech business.
One of the things that's interesting, if you can tell us a little bit more about LUXTRA, when I was reading about it, um, a lot of the materials come from fruit. So tell us what you're making and how fruit plays into it, because I have never heard of that type of manufacturing process before.
Yeah, so LUXTRA is a sustainably minded fashion accessories brand. So we make bags, backpacks, wallets. But also exactly what you were saying, these plant-based, a lot of them are fruit-based materials. And they're sort of trying to be a leather-like material. That's another big world of debate, is whether you're allowed to call them or should even call them leather-like or whatever. But that's another can of worms. But so some we work with are made partly from cactus, made partly from pineapple leaves. I've worked with some that are made from mango. There's apple. I haven't worked with grape yet. When I say grape leather, it's sort of some of the waste products from the grape industry or /wine industry are incorporated into these materials, but they're not like 90% grape. There's binders and things like that. So when people first hear about these materials, that's one of the first things they think. A lot of people say, can I eat it, and this and that, but no, they're not going to melt in the rain. They've been treated so that they won't, and so that they are durable. But yeah, there's a whole world of materials out there. Some are made from like the grains from beer, like sort of the hops that have the things. A lot of them are made with waste products. I guess is sort of a common theme.
So, Jessica, how do you go from a restaurant to LUXTRA? Because yes, I completely understand the theme of innovative, vegan, sustainable materials, true to your passion, true to your values. But what a leap between bringing 50 people in or 100 people in to have a meal and making a bag out of, partially out of waste
Yeah.
food.
Yeah, well, I'll just clarify. I don't actually make the materials themselves. I purchase them from the companies that are innovating, and then I do the manufacturing of bags and accessories from that. But to answer your question, I'm somebody that's a little bit impatient. I sort of don't want to have to work 4 years in industry and then maybe start my own thing. I want to get in, get moving, start my own thing. I'll learn on the job, which is of course what I do. The learning curve is almost vertical, but that's fine. And then you bring people in. LinkedIn's great. I found my product developer at that point. She was the one who worked with me for more than a year to start with, showing me how you make a bag and introduced me to manufacturers, showed me how you do the technical drawings. So I'm like a big sponge. I just grab, talk to people. I'm really friendly, and I try to be really friendly. People tend to like to talk to me because I'm quite warm and open, and so I just take as much as I can learning wise.
But what is that first spark? Did you come about the materials, as you said, and thought, maybe with your advertising, your marketing background, your passion, that you could do something different with it? I mean, because again, it's a big leap.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I thought I would be with my restaurant for at least a decade. But my business partner and I started to see things differently after a while. So one of us probably needed to move on. I thought it would be him, and in the end, it turned out to be me. So you've always got to be prepared.
It happens.
It does. So that's why I'm doing my business on my own this time around. So there's no sort of disagreement, shall we say. So it was like, okay, well, what do I do now? I was expecting to be with my business for, like I said, a long time with the restaurant. I found myself without my baby anymore. And I tried to get a job, but I guess my skill set is a little bit all over the place. So no one wanted to hire me. And I thought, right, so I'm going to take charge of my future and I'm going to build something again. I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit naive, which I'm sure it's an essential part, because you wouldn't do it if you knew the you knew what was ahead of you. And I just thought, okay, well, it's not rocket science. Like literally there are billions of bags probably out there. It's like someone knows how to, a lot of people know how to do this. I'm not stupid, so I'm sure I can work it out. That's sort of my approach.
It seems to have worked. So, so what's your distribution model? Where can people find LUXTRA?
Yeah, we're a direct-to-consumer brand, which means we ship directly to consumers from our website. We don't have any wholesale, so we're not in many shops because the markup rate is just huge, and I don't really feel that's a fair price to charge people when, you know, I think it offers people a better price, a better value
Right.
for us if we offer it at a better margin for the consumer. And we do have some third-party websites that we're on. There's one called Immaculate Vegan, which is like a fashion vegan shop with sort of really nice things. And they take a percentage rather than like marking it up 3 times. So yeah, we're at luxtralondon.com is where you can find us, or on Instagram at luxtralondon.
Well, I hope some of the listeners go there. Because I took a look. I mean, it really is interesting looking, or beautiful looking, and the backstory was incredible. Well, let's stick to materials, because I'm so fascinated by that. You're also involved now with the Material Innovation Initiative.
Yes.
What is that?
So Material Innovation Initiative, I call it MII. So MII is a non-profit that's essentially trying to help the world use more sustainable materials. And a lot of them are cruelty-free. So a big focus of MII is trying to show brands and help brands how they can use leather alternatives. I work as an ad hoc advisor to them, so I'm not part of their daily team or anything like that, but we're in touch regularly. I speak on the panels when they do talks, and you know, we help each other. I'm looking for fundraising at the moment, so I reach out to them and they put me in touch. And when they need help on brands and how things manufacture and how things sew, they'll talk to me because I have that expertise. So it's a really nice two-way conversation, and we're both, again, it comes back to that mission. We're all trying to improve materials around the planet.
And what do you think the future is then of sustainable materials? What's the journey for it?
As we're probably all seeing, sustainability is becoming a hot topic, and I think only growing, and will only continue to grow. I don't think it's a trend or a fad that will go away. Especially when we have, you know, severe weather events that show people that it really is happening, climate change. And as a result, we've got huge amounts of money being poured into these materials like never before. And so we see that the development of them is speeding up, and iterations of, you know, I've worked with many of these companies, either on like a sort of temporary advisor, or actually as a paid consultant, helping them develop. And you know, the speed of change and how well the materials are advancing is very fast. And I remember speaking to one company, it's sort of a legacy company. They worked with polymers in Italy. They were sort of one of the first polyurethane, so faux leather as we tended to know it. And they said they were working on this rice, I think it was a rice-based leather, for like probably a decade, and like it never got off the ground because there wasn't the will and the money. Right. But now people are putting money in, and you know, things are changing like this. So it's really exciting, and I can only see it, the materials getting better and better, so that consumers might never know the difference.
A lot of people think that being the first in the market is always the best, but I think that now that there's a bit of a groundswell, I think that sometimes eases our journey. What are some of the untapped natural materials that you're seeing? Some of the materials that we could be seeing in the future? I mean, you've already mentioned apples and I think it was mangoes and pineapple. Where do we go next?
Well, I think, again, MII, who's a really good resource on this, I think they've listed like 90 companies around the world that are working on these materials. They're not all like leathers. Some of them are like trying to be an alternative to silk, which is, you know, which is not a vegan. It involves killing of animals, silk. Some are furs. So there's lots of different companies. Primarily, it's a fashion. So, you know, clothing and apparel and leather things is their focus. But then, of course, we can talk about furniture, and we can talk about footwear, and we can talk about automotive. So there's lots of applications, but sort of for a lot of these companies, the beachhead is the fashion industry, specifically bags, because it's sort of the easiest one to do. And so, I mean, I've mentioned a lot of sort of the more cool ones like grape, apple, pineapple. I've seen SCOBY from the top of kombucha. Like some people are trying to turn that into a material. There's like beer waste. There's obviously the myceliums, the mushroom based, which I think some of them have still a little way to go. I've heard that things like strawberries, however, do not work well in a leather because they've got too high liquid content or something. So it's not like you can just whack any plant or fruit in the machine and it will come out. A mulberry, like mulberry skin, mulberry leaves from the silk plant. Yeah, if you go on MII's website and you go to resources and you go to the innovator profiles, you'll see like all the lists.
Very nice. And no, I think that's it's just so interesting to hear you talk about it, because it's certainly not things that I would have thought about. And if I'm not mistaken, LUXTRA is also a B Corp. Tell us a little bit more about B Corp and the B Corp movement.
Yeah, so B Corp has been around for quite a while now. I think we're coming up to being 1,000 in the UK. B Corp is blending purpose with profit. So it's not a charity. If you're a B Corp, you're not a charity. You're making a pledge that yes, you're going to do business and you're making money, but you're doing it in a way that takes care of planet, people, animal welfare, and things like that. B Corp, to become a B Corp, what you have to do is you have to get a certain score out of this big questionnaire that they have. Not every company will have the same. It's not like you have to get 10 out of 10 here and 10 out of 10 there on all the same metrics. So you can have a bit of a blended range. Some people are much stronger on the social aspect. You know, it's about paying people living wages, or what's the difference between your highest paid employee and your lowest paid employee? Is it 10,000 or is it more like 4? What's sort of the ratio there? And there's also part about giving back to the planet, you know, donating percentage of your top line revenue as opposed to just profits, because it's not always the same thing.
Right. Well, it sounds like a great stamp to have for your business. And you recently, it's not a stamp, but you won an award from Marie Claire for Best Sustainable Small Business. I mean, that sounds incredible.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we were very pleased to win that category. Yeah, it's a very nice recognition of all the things that we're really trying to do, and despite being a very small business, you know, we really are going above and beyond to try and do things better, and to have that recognition is really nice. At the same thing being said, it's not like all of a sudden our sales have, you know, gone tenfold. I would love that to be the case, but maybe with time.
Absolutely. So when you're talking about time, what do you see as a future of LUXTRA? I mean, is it different products, more countries? How does it look to grow?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm raising money at the moment, and the team. So the first stage is hiring a designer, sort of harking back to your comment earlier about people with different opinions. I've had feedback that the products are too plain or like they're not enticing enough. That's feedback both from people in the industry and from customers. So it's like, okay, let's bring on a designer. Let's really take this up a notch. Looking at the branding, I think from when I started LUXTRA working on LUXTRA in 2017 to now, I feel like the world has evolved. So maybe we need to shift our branding to appeal to more people. But then there's a bigger picture as well that I want LUXTRA to innovate on the supply chain. Manufacturing at the moment still feels very industrial revolution. You know, you've got to ship it over there and you've got to get the thread from over there, and you know, like all the moving parts that go into the fashion supply chain is just mind-boggling. So I feel like I really want to dive into that. Maybe that would give us more of a competitive advantage, because fashion is a very saturated market. I'm not the only person doing handbags, and I think to really set us apart, we need to think smarter as opposed to just like working harder or doubling down on what we're doing. So thinking bigger picture, right, is what we have.
Well, at each level we hit, I mean, there's always that next challenge. So it sounds like you're thinking about it and thinking about going forward with it. And I also notice in terms of thinking about the future, you're taking your PhD.
Yes, yes. I mean, juggling it all is a little bit difficult,
Yeah.
but and now I have a boyfriend, so that just not, my time's not really my own anymore, but that's fine. Yeah, I'm looking at I don't have the area of my thesis right now, but it will be something to do with sustainability or the fashion industry. But what my school does, which is an American business school in Paris, which I think you have also been to, or you're currently at,
I am, yes, I'm doing my
lecturing.
doctorate there as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think the beauty of it is that you get to do all these electives as part of your coursework. So it's,
Yeah.
what did I do earlier? I did agile methodology, and which I'm incorporating into my business now, and it's wonderful. So I really like that aspect. It's not just 3 years on one paper. You get to explore all the different different electives that interest you.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And it is, it's been a great experience for me the same way, just to learn and share with people from different parts of the world and areas that I, I'm a little bit older than you, so areas that just didn't exist when I did my undergrad or even my master's. So I found
Yeah,
it, I find it really, really great just
yeah.
listen and hear and learn. So,
Stimulating, right? Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jessica, as our time comes to a close on Say Hi to the Future, I just have one last question. One of the other comments I heard you make online was that your teenage self would have been proud of you, which is a wonderful thing to say. In 5 years now, what would make you proud?
Or LUXTRA to be having a really big impact on the planet in a positive way. Just underline that aspect.
Yeah.
We've all got egos. I want to have success in my life as well, but of course I want to be doing good whilst I can achieve those goals, those personal goals. So LUXTRA to be household name, or to be on the arm of Billie Eilish, or all of those wonderful things would be amazing.
Well, I wish you all the success, Jessica, and I
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Ken. Lovely to be here.
Take care.
Bye-bye.